So there's a lot of different ways that we get it into the community.
Okay. And then Cindy, the church garden, once you've harvested it, what do you know about the process of getting it?
We just drive it down to the chow warehouse.
So you take it to the chow warehouse
we just drive it down.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple
pretty simple process.
Yeah. And I think that the piece we want to remember here is that this is volunteer work for many people who get that sense of satisfaction from being in the garden, the whole idea of working with the soil and then finding the fruit of their labor quite literally.
Yeah.
And many times we don't see that in some of our volunteer work. But in volunteering in a garden, there's
it's
a
very
process.
satisfying.
Yes.
It's also fun because we had our youth group there the other night picking weeds, and nobody likes to do that.
Yeah.
And they carried a lot of them up to the curb for processing at the compost facility. And old and young, everybody participates, and we just have a good time together.
Yeah.
So there's that on top of the physical labor that's involved. It's just the fellowship of it all.
I hadn't thought about the intergenerational part. But
Yeah.
You mentioned the Vestal High School kids working in the...
Yeah, we had them recently, and actually in a couple of weeks we're about to start the Chow Youth Program, which I'm also in charge of. I'm very busy, but I really love it, so it's worthwhile. And that's going to be a group of about 8, mostly at-risk youth between 16 and 21, and they're going to be working with us on the Chow bus and at the Chow farm. And we've been able to give them about 2 raised beds at the Chow farm, so they can grow, whatever they want to grow.
Sure.
And I think that's going to be very rewarding because, like we were talking about, it's really something else when you're able to physically, put a plant in the ground and then you care for it, and eventually it produces for you. Yeah. And you have the tomato or the squash, and you know that you helped make that.
Yeah. And there are certain things you can almost sample while you're there.
Yeah.
Just a reminder that we're talking with Melina Martin, who is working as an AmeriCorps volunteer with Chow and with the Broome County Council of Churches, and with Cindy Natoli, who is a member of the Union Presbyterian Church, which has a garden on Liberty Avenue in Endicott. Right. And that's a backyard garden. But still, even that small backyard garden has potential for feeding a number of people.
Right. I wish I could remember how many pounds we took out. I mean, 50 or 60 pounds of produce last year. And
Which is a lot when it's, like leafy greens. And
right. And this year I think it's already 12 pounds that we've taken. And that was just in our first harvest.
Right.
So, we're excited. And we planted potatoes for the first time this year. So we're going to do okay as far as
poundage.
Poundage, yeah. So it's just been fun to, like you said, experiment with different plants and see what grows.
Some things really take off that you never even expect.
Right, and we've taken a series of pictures this year, and it's just been amazing to see what it looked like in May when we planted, and just a month later how much it's grown.
And to share those pictures on the church Facebook page encourages members of the congregation or the community, the friends of the church who happen to be on that page.
Right.
When you see that kind of reward for the labor that's been put into it. And then the idea, once again, that we're feeding our hungry neighbors, and we cannot deny that they are there, because this food doesn't sit on the bus or on the shelf very long before it's taken.
We've really, this is the second year, or we started the Chow Bus last year, and we moved thousands of pounds of produce off of it. I don't remember the exact statistic. I think it was about 20,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And this year's going better than ever. On Wednesday mornings from 9 until 1, we're at the Broome County Library, which is one of our most popular sites, and we regularly have over 100 people come by, and we sell upwards of $200 worth of produce, which is a lot when everything is like 50 cents.
Sure.
So it goes so fast, and people really respond to being able to have fresh produce, but isn't terribly expensive and won't eat up your whole grocery bill.
Right. And there's the networking that goes on. You've talked about the fellowship of the intergenerational volunteers working in the garden, but there's also a networking that goes on with at the Chow farm, for example, with vines. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with VINES, VINES, at all.
Yeah, they stand for Volunteers Improving Neighborhood Environments is what it stands for. It's an acronym. And I am also an intern with them. I think my technical title is that I'm an assistant manager of their urban farm.
Yeah.
They have, it's 2 house plots down on Tudor Street off of Shenango. And it's, the plots are empty except for, well, not empty, they're full of produce. But they've been doing that for 6 or 7 years. They also have several small community gardens throughout the Binghamton area. And the urban farm, we grow so much produce there, and it gets distributed both through farm shares, which are given to families or to individuals on a weekly basis. They can pay for them with food stamps as well, which is one of the things that makes VINES unique. Because with food stamps, I believe it's 10 days. You have to, if you pay money for food, you have to receive it within 10 days is one of the regulations on it. So with a lot of farm shares, you have to pay up front. And if you're on food stamps, you just can't do that. And so that excludes a lot of people from having, farm fresh produce.
Sure.
And so they do about 25 shares through that. And they also donate a lot of produce to Chow, which we appreciate. I believe we're giving some of it today on Wednesday. Well, not today because this is airing some other time.
Right.
Oops. But
in the general vicinity of today, yes, or this week, yes. And we should speak a little bit about the partnership of other gardens. You mentioned some of the other gardens in the area.
Yeah.
I've been. Now I'm picturing sunflowers. Is there a sunflower?
There is a sunflower park. Are you thinking of that?
That's what I'm thinking of. Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a garden there, right? There's a little park.
I believe there is. I think that's a small community garden.
Yeah. So how does one, we talked about the Union Presbyterian Garden, which was someone's backyard. The space was available, and now it's producing food for hungry neighbors, and not just literal neighbors in that community, but through Chow. So suppose someone has space someplace, a little bit of acreage that they would be willing to share. How does one contribute that space? We're not talking about deeding over the property, but how would one start a community or a neighborhood garden?
Well, I guess it depends on how you'd want to do it. If you'd want to do it through your church and get other church members involved, or if you would want to talk to your neighbors and see maybe if they're interested in helping you maintain that garden. There's a lot of different options that you can follow. And of course, it's a great hobby for anyone of any age.
But it doesn't have to be an official Chow garden.
No. We will take produce from anyone who's willing to give it to us.
So if someone has a garden already and is thinking, well, what am I going to do with all...
You planted too many zucchini plants.
Zucchinis, other than throwing them in my neighbor's car at night. But that's a wonderful place then to contribute.
Absolutely.
And they simply call the Chow office or go to the Chow website and they can find ways to do that.
Yeah. If you come to our warehouse, you can drop it off and we'll take it, put it in the freezer to keep it fresh, and then give it to, where it's needed.
Yeah. And what kind of response do you get from the folks who receive the food? Do you ever get feedback?
Oh, absolutely, all the time, especially on the bus. When people, because what we do is we have the bus, of course, and we use it to transport the produce, and we set up. It's kind of like a farmer's market, like you'd find in Ossiningo Park on Saturdays, out the back of it. And so we have tables, we have a tent that goes over it, and then we have milk crates that are full of tomatoes, like a milk crate full of like cucumbers, zucchinis, peppers. And recently, now that it's starting to be the season, we've been getting strawberries, blueberries, like honeydew melons, all sorts of things. And people will come by and they'll look at like all of the produce that's available, and like they'll talk to you and tell you like, oh, I've been making like these sandwiches recently, and like I love having tomatoes on them, but like they're so hard to get. And people are really enthusiastic about it. Everyone loves fresh produce if they can get it.
Yeah. And what about are there ways to help people learn how to use the food that they get from the garden? Are there classes, cooking classes?
We actually do. We pair with the Cornell Cooperative Extension. They have like a nutrition outreach program, and we have a couple of ladies from there who follow us on the Chow bus at least on Wednesdays. And they'll set up a little stand, and usually what we do is we tell them ahead of time like what we have for free. Like recently we had whole pallets of zucchinis that we were given.
What
Yeah.
a surprise.
Yeah, zucchinis can be very, very productive.
Right.
Yeah, and so we told the Cornell Cooperative Extension that we had, you know, a lot of zucchinis, and so they made zucchini bread, so people could sample some of the zucchini bread, get the recipe, learn a bit about like healthy grains, and then they could pick up some zucchinis for free.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a great partnership.
Yeah, free zucchini, what a concept.
Yeah.
Cindy, one more question about a local church doing a garden. When this is announced in church, do you find enthusiasm among the church folk about what they're doing, or is this kind of a little kind of
Not as
off the
popular.
grid kind of
Oh,
ministry?
no. Everybody's really proud of what we've accomplished, and they're very enthusiastic about it. And yeah, so people have been very supportive.
Yeah.
And donating time and offering to. Well, last year we had one of our members donated 34 tomato plants. So it was great. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to be
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I never thought about that, but it's one thing to buy the seeds, but to have folks who already have gardens bring things in
That we
that
can
have already
plant.
been started.
Right.
Yeah.
It gives us a big head start.
Yes,
Definitely.
it does. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Right.
And the weather's been cooperative this year, you said.
Yeah, so far. We kind of had a weird spring. Like, we didn't really have spring this year, it seems.
Yeah.
And we had frost, like, really late into the season. It
Right.
got really cold that
It's
one
nice.
night.
We haven't had to water. It's
Yeah,
just,
the rain has been
it's
great,
just
though.
the weeds
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
hard
It's
to.
good for the vegetables, but also good for the weeds.
Right, very good for the
It's one of
weeds.
those things where if you have too much rain, then you're walking through mud, and it's hard for people to negotiate
Yeah.
the rows. But,
Right.
and you mentioned raised beds, which is a really convenient way for
Definitely.
folks not always leaning over and so
Yeah.
on.
Right.
So the Chow Garden or the Chow Farm has a lot of raised beds.
Yeah, about half of it is raised beds, and then the other half we have flat gardens, like what you traditionally think of when you think of like a farm,
Sure.
where you used to have rows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for more information, there are certainly you can Google Union Presbyterian Church and find something there about that particular small garden, which is
Yes.
one of many probably around the community. And then folks can also go to the Broome County Council of Churches website and can find more information about the Chow Farm
Yeah.
and about the various ways to participate as volunteers. But also, if you are hungry, then this is a way for you to find that you'll have fresh produce that will feed your
Yeah.
family and will be healthy and nourishing and will help in some small way to alleviate hunger in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, I would recommend going on our Facebook page. Our website doesn't have as much information as it could. That's another project I'm
So the
working on.
Facebook page is,
Yeah.
where would I find that?
If you want information about the bus, you can go to, if you just Google Chow, or not Google, but you know, how you search on Facebook.
Yeah, okay,
You can find Chow, and then one of the links on that Facebook page will be to the Chow bus.
Okay. So, Melina Martin, our guest, and Cindy Natoli, our guest. I'm Jeff Kellam, thanking you for being with us on this edition of Encounter, and we'll see you again next week. In the meantime, I hope you be gentle with people and with yourself.